I'm Zahir with Kelvin and Abdullah, and this is Nightline. News making the headlines. 3 separate attacks on 3 footballers have similar modus operandi. And Selangor FC opt out of Charity Shield match. Selangor FC have decided to not participate in the Charity Shield game against Johor Darul Takzim at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri. The curtain raiser match was scheduled to take place on May 10th. Selangor FC, in a statement on Wednesday night, said the decision was made after a series of discussions and taken into account the safety of the players. Earlier, Malaysian Football League MFL said it had rejected Selangor's request to postpone the match. It added all matches scheduled for the first week would follow the predetermined schedule. Police investigations into the 3 separate attacks on 3 different footballers recently have uncovered similarities in terms of the perpetrators' modus operandi. However, Bukit Aman Criminal Investigation Department CID Director Datuk Sri Muhammad Shuhaili Muhammad Zain said the cases, which occurred in different states, cannot be linked to one another yet. According to Shuhaili, all 3 cases previously handled at the state contingent level are now being handled by the Bukit Aman Classified Crime Investigation Unit, or USJT. In a media conference on Wednesday, he also said that the police are still investigating the motive behind the 3 incidents, adding that authorities have recorded the statements of 15 individuals, including family members and witnesses.
Dia pemain bola sepak dan the sequence of event itu almost 2 hari sekali. Plus, dianya diikuti sebelumnya diserang dan orang yang menyerang juga berpasangan. So the MO is almost similar.
He added that the USJT is also investigating threats allegedly received by Selangor FC Chief Executive Officer Dr. Johan Kamal Hamidon, stating that he would suffer the same fate as Faisal Halim, who was the victim of an acid attack. Shuhaili stated that the investigation is being conducted from all angles and aspects, including whether it was related to the accusations of wrongdoings levelled against the Football Association of Malaysia, FAM, in a poison pen letter that went viral last month. The attacks on the footballers started on May 2nd when Akia Rashid, who is also a Terengganu FC player, got injured after being hit with a blunt object in a robbery incident in Terengganu, followed by the incident of Selangor FC star Faisal being splashed with acid in the parking lot of a shopping mall in Petaling Jaya, Selangor on May 5th. On Tuesday, the rear mirror of former national football team skipper Safiq Rahim's car was reportedly smashed by 2 suspects riding a motorcycle at the Johor Darul Takzim JDT Training Centre in Johor Bahru. Meanwhile, Shuhaili said the Instagram account Muhammad Imran Suresh that claimed to have information about the acid attack on Faisal was verified as fake. He said the person behind the account had attempted to cast a negative perception of certain parties following the incident.
After we look at it, it's a fake account. Itulah saya cakap. You give a small gap, these people try to make things worse by hinting, by try to derail our investigation somewhere and all that. You know, you're going to create a negative perceptions on people who we do not know whether they're involved in the first place or not.
Shuhaili added that police were monitoring developments on social media relating to the attacks against local footballers and will seek the assistance of the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, on the matter. He also urged all professional footballers to be vigilant about their personal safety in light of these cases. Selangor FC chairman Tengku Amir Shah Sultan Saifuddin Idris Shah paid a visit to Faisal Halim at the private hospital in Shah Alam on Wednesday following the acid attack on the national footballer. The Selangor FC star's winger is reported to be in stable condition after undergoing a 3-hour surgery at the hospital on Tuesday. Tengku Amir, accompanied by Selangor Football Association Deputy President Datuk Sri Sharil Mokhtar, spent nearly an hour with Faisal, who had completed his second surgery. The Crown Prince of Selangor had declared his readiness to bear the full cost of Faisal's treatment and recovery, even though the player already has insurance coverage. Faisal, who won the Best Goal Award at the Asia Cup in Doha in January, was reported to have sustained fourth-degree burns as a result of the acid attack, with injuries covering his face, neck, arms and body. Meanwhile, medical staff treating Faisal are waiting on a skin layer from overseas, which will be used in the footballer's skin graft procedure later this week. Selangor FC Medical Chief Dr. Muhammad Hazwan Khair said the surgery is aimed at treating the 26-year-old's damaged skin, while the muscle injury recovery process would be carried out in a subsequent session.
Basically yang dikatakan tu memang perlu dibawa masuk daripada luar. It's what we call a skin allograft lah. Jadi sebahagian daripada prosedur untuk membantu dan mempercepatkan pemulihan.
He added that the skin layer would be imported from Belgium, while the skin allograft procedure was estimated to cost around 30,000 ringgit. Skin allografts are performed to treat wounds on patients who do not have enough skin to be grafted. The substitute skin is obtained from live donors, which would then be grafted onto the wounded area. Now, Johor Police believe the attack on former Harimau Malaya skipper Safiq Rahim has no connection with the incidents involving two other national players. State Police Chief Commissioner M. Kumar said a thorough investigation is still underway and members of the public are urged not to make any speculations on the matter.
Mengenai kes ini dan biarlah polis menjalankan siasatan. Insiden ini tidak ada kena-mengena dengan insiden-insiden lain dan menasihati orang awam, orang ramai supaya jangan membuat spekulasi.
Kumar added that authorities would also examine the CCTV footage near the scene of the incident to identify the culprits. The JDT midfielder was the latest victim of attacks on local footballers. It was reported that Safiq's rear car window was smashed by unknown individuals using a hammer while he was driving from the JDT training centre in Johor Bahru towards Lido Beach at 10:05 p.m. on Tuesday. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for committing mischief. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Ibrahim attended the Prime Minister Department's JPM Madani Aidilfitri Open House in Putrajaya on Wednesday. The event, which started at noon, was attended by more than 5,000 guests, comprising staff from JPM and its agencies. The King was greeted upon arrival by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim and Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof. Also present to welcome Sultan Ibrahim was Chief Secretary to the Government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali and members of the Cabinet. Sultan Ibrahim and Anwar also spent about an hour mingling with the guests at the event. JPM in a statement said that the event was organised to foster the spirit of unity, harmony and goodwill between JPM staff and the administrative management team. Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani has called on the US government to remit to Putrajaya a part of the $2.9 billion in fines and penalties imposed on Goldman Sachs over its role in the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB saga. According to the 1MDB Asset Recovery Task Force chairman, Goldman Sachs have also yet to fulfill the settlement agreement that requires them to pay $1.4 billion to Malaysia. He said Malaysia was entitled to receive some compensation from the sum paid by the New York-based investment bank to US authorities. He added that the country appreciates the US government's efforts in the recovery and repatriation of the 1MDB funds, but they are far less than the $4.5 billion that was stolen from Malaysians. Johari, who is also the Plantation and Commodities Minister, said Malaysia is at the short end of the stick compared to Goldman Sachs. He stressed that while the bank would be able to return to doing business as usual, Malaysia would continue to be saddled with the principal and interest payments on the bonds. Economists, meanwhile, stressed that Malaysia's request for part of Goldman Sachs' monies recovered by the US government in the 1MD case be returned is fair, considering that Malaysians are the actual victims. Dr. Jeffrey Williams said the $2.9 billion fines paid by Goldman Sachs to the US government was a combination of penalties and punishments in the negotiated settlement of the criminal case rather than a direct recovery of losses to aggrieved parties such as Malaysia. He added, whilst the courts apply the US law and have issued the punishment according to the law, there are wider issues of a sense of fairness and recovery of losses suffered in Malaysia. Therefore, he said it is reasonable for Datuk Sri Johari to request a portion of the payments made for the settlement of the case and the dropping of criminal charges. Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Chief Economist Muhammad Afzan Nizam Abdul Rashid emphasised that any inflows of funds from the recovery efforts would bolster the government's financial position. He also said that it shows that the recovery effort enacted by the government is bearing fruit. For Putra Business School economic analyst, Associate Professor Dr. Ahmed Razman Abdul Latif, a compensation will not be enough, but at least it will save the government a few billions in terms of its liabilities and commitment in settling the 1MDB debts. Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail is expected to meet the United States Treasury Department's top sanctions official Brian Nelson on Thursday. The Home Minister said he will explain to Nelson Malaysia's official stance on issues relating to the flow of funds for Iran and its proxies.
Saya akan menemui Brian Nelson besok pagi untuk pertama mendengar apa juga perkara yang dia nak sampaikan. Yang kedua, saya akan pada akhir mendengar pembentangan mereka. Saya akan memberikan penjelasan ataupun official position kerajaan tentang perkara yang dibangkitkan. Itu akan berlaku pagi besok.
He said this to the media after the contract signing ceremony at the Defence Services Asia and National Security Asia 2024 exhibitions in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. He was commenting on a report over US concerns on funds being moved to Iran and its proxies, including Hamas, through the Malaysian financial system. Reuters reported that Nelson would travel to Malaysia and Singapore this week as Washington seeks to combat funding for Iran and its proxies, as well as evasion of its sanctions on Russia. The preliminary report on the helicopter crash at the Royal Malaysian Navy RMN base in Lumut, which killed 10 officers and personnel on April 23rd, will be released on Thursday. Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil, who is also the Unity Government spokesman, said the Cabinet was informed on the matter during its meeting earlier on Wednesday.
Menteri Pertahanan hari ini telah memberi sedikit maklum balas mengenai status laporan awal siasatan bagi nahas helikopter yang berlaku di Lumut baru-baru ini. Beliau memaklumkan kepada Jemaah Menteri bahawa laporan awal akan diterbitkan esok dan ini adalah untuk makluman semua laporan awal dan belum lagi mempunyai keseluruhan.
Speaking at a press conference in Putrajaya, Fahmi added that during the meeting, the Cabinet was also told that the full investigation report is expected to be completed within the next 2 to 3 weeks. In the tragedy that happened at 9:32 a.m., 10 RMN personnel and officers, comprising 7 crew members and 3 passengers, were killed after the 2 helicopters they were on collided during a parade rehearsal for the 90th RMN anniversary at the Lumut base. Australia continues its visa crackdown. News from the foreign front when we return.
Adik bonceng abang boleh?
Satu hari korang bangun, ada gadis misteri tiba-tiba muncul.
또 뭐야?
Yang lagi mengejutkan, dia sebenarnya...
괜찮아? 어디 다친 데 없고?
Shh, Duyong.
Are you Chinese? Japanese? 아닌데, 한국 쪽인데 딱 필이.
Legend of the Blue Sea, setiap Selasa hingga Khamis 11 malam. Shotnya ber-K-drama di Jam Sarang TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
You were the one for me.
Saat-saat manis Kelvin dan Dom tidak kekal lama.
To be your lover, forever Dominic Garcia.
Dan mereka mula saling menjauh.
We're drifting apart.
Ganito na lang ba tayo palagi, ha?
Ketika konflik memuncak, Tony muncul menggugat ikatan cinta. To have and to hold. Setiap Sabtu 12.30 hari. Di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. An F-16 fighter jet crashed at a military airbase in Singapore on Wednesday after issues occurred during takeoff. Fortunately, there were no casualties as the pilot successfully ejected before the plane crashed thereafter within Tengah Air Base. According to the Defence Ministry, the Singapore jet experienced an issue during takeoff and the pilot responded in accordance with emergency procedures. It added that it had begun investigating the crash. Such incidents are extremely rare in the city-state, which has the most advanced air force in Southeast Asia. In 2010, a military helicopter made an emergency landing at an open field near a residential area due to issues with the engine. The Zionist regime on Wednesday launched new attacks across the Gaza Strip as it built its offensive on southern Rafah despite ongoing talks for a ceasefire. The attacks were mainly focused on the As-Salam neighborhood in eastern Rafah. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Qatar called for urgent international action to prevent the invasion of the city and the commitment of a genocide. The threat of a full-scale assault on Rafah threatens to widen a rift between Israel and its main backer, the US, which paused a shipment of weapons to Israel last week. Egyptian media earlier reported the truce talks had resumed in Cairo with all sides present. In response to the latest attacks by Israel on Rafah in Gaza, Malaysia has vehemently condemned the violence, particularly highlighting the significant loss of life with 19 reported casualties, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Wisma Putra said these attacks occurred just hours after Hamas had accepted a ceasefire proposal brokered by Egypt and Qatar, indicating a concerning disregard for peace negotiations on Israel's part. In a statement on Wednesday, the Foreign Ministry also expressed deep concern over the ongoing assaults on civilians by the Israeli occupation forces, particularly in Rafah, emphasizing the abhorrent nature of targeting densely populated areas where innocent children, women and vulnerable individuals seek shelter. The ministry also calls upon the international community to intensify efforts to pressure Israel to halt its aggressive actions and to ensure accountability for violations of international humanitarian and human rights law committed by the Zionist regime. Australia on Wednesday said it would raise the amount of savings international students would need to get a visa and warned several colleges of fraudulent student recruitment practices as part of its efforts to rein in record migration. Starting on Friday, international students must show proof of savings of at least $19,576 to get their visa, the second increase in about 7 months. According to the Home Affairs Minister, warning letters have also been sent to 34 education providers for non-genuine or exploitative recruitment practices. She also added that they could be jailed for up to 2 years and banned from recruiting students if found guilty. The moves follow a raft of actions in recent months to tighten the student visa rules as the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions in 2022 triggered a sudden influx of migrants, increasing pressure on an already tight rental market. TikTok and its parent company ByteDance have sued to block a law signed by President Joe Biden just weeks ago that would force the sale of the short video app or risk having it banned in the US. The companies filed their lawsuit in the US Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit on Tuesday, arguing the law is unconstitutional and violates free speech protections. It also argues in the suit that the divestiture required by the bill is simply not commercially, legally, or technically possible. Signed by Biden on April 24th as part of a broader foreign aid package, the law gives China's ByteDance until January 19, 2025 to sell TikTok to an approved buyer. Malaysia suffers second defeat. Sports after this breather.
Nana.
Ya.
Pak Nil dah ada dekat Crew 101.
Ya, saya dengar hari tu masa saya dalam kereta, Pak Nil dekat Crew 101 tu memang best.
Pak Nil memang legend kan? Best.
It's my bestie, Pak Nil kat Crew.
Wah, Pak Nil idola saya. Saya nak jadi macam dia.
Dia seorang yang berkarisma, bila bercakap sangat confident.
Saya suka dengan Pak Nil. Dia memang best.
Cool 101.
Get ready, ladies. It's time to shatter the stereotypes. We talk career, health, finance, relationships, and everything in between. So grab your coffee cups and wear your sassiest smiles. This talk show is all about you. Catch Women Talk every Saturdays at 5 p.m. on TV3. Stream also on Tonton.
Siri romantik komedi Legend of the Blue Sea bukan sahaja mendapat tempat di hati ramai tetapi telah memenangi anugerah dalam SBS Drama Awards 2016. Legend of the Blue Sea setiap Selasa hingga Khamis 11 malam. Shotnya per K-drama di jam sarang TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
We're back with sports hockey, the 2024 Sultan Azlan Shah Cup. The national team's hopes of retaining the title faded away after they were beaten 1-2 by Japan on Wednesday night. Japan were the first to draw blood as they found the back of the net in the 24th minute through a tap-in goal by Kazumasa Matsumoto. The speedy Tigers then started the second half on an offensive mode as they equalized after just 30 seconds through Faisal Shahri's shot from a tight angle. Taiki Takade sealed the win for Japan in the 50th minute. With the result, Malaysia are third in the table with 6 points, while Japan are in second place with 10 points. On to tennis now, the 2024 Italian Open. Yulia Putintseva booked her place in the second round with a straight sets victory over home favourite Martina Trevisan. The Kazakh faced little trouble as she claimed a 6-3, 6-4 victory over the 30-year-old Italian in the first round. Putintseva will now face American Sloane Stephens in round 2. In another match, Paula Badosa showed signs of her old form in beating Russian teenager Mira Andreeva 6-2, 6-3 on the opening day. The former world number 2 took 1 hour and 31 minutes to claim the win and will face American 21st seed Emma Navarro in the second round. Man sentenced to 20 years for raping daughter. The details after this short break.
Tugas Rita adalah untuk menyelesaikan masalah cinta. Tapi dia pula yang bertemu jodoh.
So you guys ada tak staff yang boleh tolong I?
Bukan satu, tapi dua.
Aku ni sebenarnya dah lama tau tak pergi dating. Z tu kan ada suka kat kau. Lepas tu kau boleh pula keluar dengan Iskandar.
Sambut panggilan cinta ini di Hello Jodoh mulai 17 Mei, Khamis hingga Sabtu 9 malam. Terbaharu di Lestari TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Cereka Rama yang penuh pergolakan emosi di TV3 Mei ini.
Awak nak buktikan apa sebenarnya?
Amanat 4 Mei.
Akak tak perlu balik dah kot rumah ni.
Lulu 11 Mei.
Awak masih lagi isteri orang.
Pergilah Cinta 18 Mei.
Budak tu mati doh.
Makbul 25 Mei. Satu destinasi untuk semua telefilm hebat kegemaran anda. Hanya di Cereka Rama TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Hati berbunga-bunga.
나 좋아할 계획은 생긴 게 아니라 벌써 좋아.
귀엽긴.
Namun, realiti tidak seindah yang disangka.
마대영이 알아. 내가 이나라는 걸.
Ketika kebenaran terungkap, adakah rasa akan tetap sama?
내가 누군지 어디서 왔는지 다 안다고?
다 사실이고.
Legend of the Blue Sea setiap Selasa hingga Khamis 11 malam. Shotnya berke-drama di jam sarang TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
The Kuala Terengganu Sessions Court on Wednesday sentenced a man to 36 years in prison and 40 strokes of the cane for raping and sexually assaulting his underage niece. Judge Muhammad Saifuddin Zulkifli meted out the punishment to the 44-year-old man after he pleaded guilty to all 5 charges. The court sentenced the father of 2 to 10 years in prison for 1 count of rape, 8 years in prison each for the other 3 counts of rape with 40 strokes of the cane, and another 2 years in prison and 2 years of police supervision for a sexual assault offence. The judge ordered all the prison terms to run separately and for the accused to receive the maximum of 24 strokes of the cane in accordance to the Criminal Procedure Code. According to the charge sheet, the man raped the victim, who was 14 years old at the time, 4 times in January, February, March and May 2023 in 2 separate locations, namely at a restaurant and a house in Losong. He also committed physical sexual assault against the same victim in the same house in December last year. Meanwhile, a man was sentenced to 20 years in prison and 5 strokes of the cane by the Seremban Sessions Court after pleading guilty to raping his daughter since she was 12 years old and impregnating her twice. The 44-year-old man was charged with committing incest against the victim, who is now 20 years old, in a village in Port Dickson on November 2nd, 2022. It was reported previously that the victim lodged a police report on May 1st that she was raped by the accused from the age of 12, leading to her becoming pregnant and giving birth to 2 children. One of the children died during birth, while the other was given away to another person by the accused and the victim's mother without her knowledge. Both the accused and the victim's mother were also charged in a separate sessions court for possession of drugs. The court set July 4th for re-mention of the case. 14 men, including 3 underage individuals, were hauled to the Butterwell Sessions Court on Wednesday to face charges relating to a riot that occurred last week. They were accused of causing serious injuries to a man, using parang and sticks, as well as possessing dangerous weapons. All 14 defendants, aged between 15 and 51, pleaded not guilty to the charges read to them before Judge Noor Aini Yusof. On the first count, they were jointly charged with being members of an unlawful assembly and intentionally causing hurt to a 21-year-old man using parang and sticks. They were also charged separately with possessing a dangerous weapon in public without a valid reason. The offences were allegedly committed in Taman Bungaraya last Friday. The court allowed all the accused to be freed on 20,000 ringgit and 28,000 ringgit bail for both charges. Let's take a look as the international troupe Archibald Karamantrana performed the giant puppet show Fables of La Fontaine in central China's Hunan province to celebrate the 60th anniversary of China and French diplomatic relations. With that, I'm Zahir, Kelvin and Abdullah. Thank you for tuning in and take care.